Hey, what's up everybody? Hope you're having an amazing day so far. I'm your host Phil, and today's video I want to showcase the brand new update which came out for DIMEHEAD's NAMplayer pedal, which I got right over here. I personally deem this perhaps the best update which I've ever seen on any software or hardware within the guitar industry. More on that right after the intro clip. If you already have watched my previous video on the NAMplayer pedal from DIMEHEAD Electronics, you already know that I'm a huge fan of neural amp modeler, the technology behind it, and bringing that to the stage, and in particular the way DIMEHEAD has brought this to the stage with the NAMplayer pedal. I have used this on a few gigs since I own this pedal. I've used this on countless rehearsals and jam sessions with buddies. I've tinkered around here at home, crafting my tones, and I have to say I had zero complaints. Absolutely delivers on everything which I throw this pedal at. So I'm really happy with this product so far. And this product is, through the version 1.0.0 update, getting even way better. And this is not actually an exaggeration. I'm really excited to present to you the changes which DIMEHEAD have introduced within the new firmware. Now, before we dive into the feature set of the new release firmware, for transparency's sake, I want to first talk a little bit about my personal engagement with the NAMplayer pedal, as well as my relationship with DIMEHEAD. This is not a sponsored video. I'm not being paid, no money is exchanging hands, I'm not being compensated in any shape or form by DIMEHEAD for making this video. I was somewhat involved in the beta testing for this firmware version because I had a few ideas on certain features. I talked a little bit with Dirk Meyer, as I occasionally do from time to time, especially about the product itself. And yeah, through that beta testing involvement, at some point Dirk just asked me, hey, do you feel fancy doing a video on the feature set? Perhaps because I already have an audience with my initial video. And I said, yeah, of course, sure, let's go for it. We have not talked about any details in regards of a sponsorship or something. So as it stands right now, not sponsored content over here. This is just my personal perception. And I just want to kind of, enlighten you on the features which we got over here. And with that out of the way, let's dive into it. In order to reap all the benefits of the new firmware version, of course, you have to download and install the firmware on your NAMplayer pedal. That's the next segment of the video. We're going to explain how to do that. Now, since I got the firmware in pre-release, I cannot showcase this on how to download this because it's not yet online. However, in general, that would mean that you go to dimehead.de/firmware. Here you got some instructions on how to upgrade the device, as well as some download links over here. You would then click on the respective download link for version 1.0.0 or whatever it's called, and then move over to your download folder. In the download folder, you're going to find a compressed zip file or a zip directory, which you then can extract. And within that extracted zip file, you're going to find a disk image file, which is called boot. You're going to find a SIG file, which is called boot SIG, and then the NAMplayer firmware in itself. The next step would be to ensure that your USB stick has the right format. For this, you want to click on Properties, and then you want to ensure that this is FAT32. If this is not the case and your USB stick is NTFS, then please back up all of the files on that respective USB stick, because what we're going to do is we're going to format that, and that's going to delete all of the stuff which is on this USB stick. For that, you go over here to the format, and then you just choose the file system to be FAT32 and do a quick format. Windows or any operating system which I know of is going to then warn you that all of the stuff is being erased, so make sure you back up. But in my case, I'm going to click OK. And in this case, it's super short. Format is completed. And now you just go ahead and simply place all of the files, all of these 3 files, onto the USB stick. Like so, through copy paste in my case. And we're good to go. I can now unplug the USB stick, plug it into the NAMplayer pedal, and then update the firmware. Next segment is on how to update the actual firmware. Now that we got it on our USB stick, I'm just going to go over here and plug in this USB stick into the USB port, which is at the back side of this. Then it's going to open the context menu. Just going to close this. And what we now want to do is we want to unplug the device. And what we want to do is put back the power but pressing down button number 4. And we're going to leave that actually pressed until we get the context menu in which we can choose to update the firmware. Just taking a little bit of time, like 10 seconds or so. There we go. Now you can see preparing new firmware, extracting firmware. Now it gives me two options. Unfortunately, I cannot set up the LCD brightness over here, so it's a little bit bright. But you can choose via the parameter button over here to either factory reset or do the update firmware. I want to do the update firmware, so we're going for that. It's now telling me that I want to do an update from 0.991 to 1.00 pre-18, which is the current beta firmware. Yes, I want to proceed, so I'm choosing that. And now it's doing its thing, taking around about half a minute, maximum 1 minute, and then informing me once that's done. Once that is done, it showcases that everything is done, and now I have the possibility of restarting the device, which I'm going to do promptly over here through plugging out and plugging back in. And with that out of the way, I again get the USB context menu, just closing this, and I'm now updated to the latest version. If you want to really verify if you are actually on the latest version, what you can do is use the param button over here to go to the context menu. Click on that one, then just move through the different menus until you get the system info. And here you can see the actual current firmware version, which is applied to your unit. Over here, I can clearly see it's version 1.00 pre-18. Just as I liked it, without any issues, I was able to go that, quite substantial step from 0.991 to version 1.00. So that's cool. No complaints over here. And let's get into exploring the features. All right, let's finally explore all the features which are coming with the new firmware version. For that, I already got everything prepared. You can see the screen over here in real time, basically. And yeah, I already loaded the Bulgara 333 Crunch NAM into this over here. Signal chains as following: amber guitars, custom-made guitar by a buddy of mine. He has his own side hustle. This has a Duesenberg Grand Vintage humbucker in it, low gain to mid gain humbucker. That goes to the NAMplayer through my wireless setup. That goes into the Harley Benton GPA 100. That in turn goes to my Marshall 4x12 mic'd up with an SM57. This is what it sounds like initially, so that you get a feeling for the tone which we're going for. Okay, we're going to do it like this. I'm just going to dive through the menu and then pinpoint the new features which we got, and we're going to have chapters at the end of the YouTube video so you can browse through the different settings and features which are added into the new firmware version. Let's go through and let's start with the gate. The gate has one setting now, or one feature. It's now per preset available and adjustable. I can go ahead and set this over here to a threshold specifically for this preset. Save that, and yeah, let's just change something. Yeah, 1 dB. Let's save that, and then I could go over to another one which has 80 dB, and then move back, and I got back my minus 74 dB. Before, it was only possible to set the gate on off and set a global gate threshold. This allows for more functionality, more flexibility in that regard. I really like it. If you want to have the gate disabled, you just go ahead and set it off. Everything above 80 dB is just simply turning it off, which is fair enough. That's a fair assessment in my personal opinion. Let's save this again, and then back to normal. Okay, this is what, basically no change in tone, of course. Next up, we got a huge update in the gain section. And finally, I'm super happy about this. We have dual NAM capability. We can stack 2 NAM blocks within the NAMplayer pedal. This is something which people have asked in the Tonix group for years by now, and since day one, that they can use one profile for a boost, one profile for an amp. Tonix is not capable of doing that. You have to buy 2 of the Tonix ones. With this, you finally have the capability of doing it over here in the gain section. Click on this, you're going to have a new pop-up which comes up, the Boost Effects NAM. You can either use this now as a pre-EQ setup, so if you don't load any NAM file, going back, you can see now we got pre-EQ. So I could use this, for example, to go with some more extreme equalizing setup. Let's see what that sounds like. So I already can pre-shape the tone going into the first amp NAM block, or I could simply just load in NAM file and have some additional EQ with that going on. Let's go ahead, let's revert back to the normal settings over here, which are the default settings, everything unchanged, and then loading a NAM file, which is my OD808, which I think suits this amplifier really good. Let's see what it sounds like. Really cool. I can think of a few different creative instances where you could use this to your advantage. You could use, for example, I'm just, thinking out of the box a little bit, use the boost NAM in order to load an amplifier, use the amp NAM in order to load a quantum speaker, which I already showcased with the NAM Universal software in a previous video, or a video yet to come, depending on which one is released first. But this would be one of the use cases which is very, enticing and very cool. You could use maybe a capture of a specific console setup, like a console channel strip, which you're using in the main NAM block, and then using your amplifier or a preamp as the boost NAM. So you got a lot of different opportunities over here which you can use creatively. I really like that we have this feature. Okay, let's save this and let's move on. And the reason why I'm saving this at all times, I'm going to explain in a moment. Next up, we have a tuner over here. Finally, we got a tuner very similar to what the Tonix offers. You have that capability of pressing the button long, and then you got the tuner. Something similar is possible over here as well. We got foot switch long press mode. By default set to nothing. We can set it to either tuner or bypassing. Bypassing was previously not available, which I think was a huge miss in hindsight, but they rectified the issue, got this now in. I'm gonna leave this as tuner for now, and then let's close. And by pressing long on this button, you are going into the tuner mode over here. It's also muting the output, just that you are aware. And now you can go ahead and tune your guitar. I'm somewhat in tune, so I just have to do minor adjustments maybe here on the low string.
Huh? What was that noise?
Okay. Now I'm in tune, ready to go. One caveat in using the tuner is, unfortunately, that unless you don't save your stuff, you're gonna revert back to the, original preset. So right now, the preset is as it is right now. If I change the gain, or do any other change for a matter of fact, and then press on the tuner for the long switch, you're gonna notice that my gain reverts back to 2.0, which was there before. I mean, that is unfortunately a bug which Dirk already knows about, which is not solvable right now at the moment. Requires maybe a little bit more work. Maybe it's not doable at all. Just note, if you want to tune your stuff, make sure you save your preset. Make sure that everything is set accordingly, ready to go. So, what you want to do is set up your gain, set up the preset, save that, and now you can do your tuning without your settings being reverted back to the old value. And we save that so that we're not overriding anything. Okay, and now we can go happily back and forth between the tuner mode and the edit mode. Okay, what is else on my list? In that sense, I want to show you the stage mode directly. Stage mode allows that you can see your proper preset in large letters. That allows for, not having the capability of, pushing the knobs and doing stuff like that. It basically, It makes life a little bit easier for the gigging musician to know where you're at, know where you are. If you want to go back to the edit mode, long press the param button, and then boom, you're back there. Okay, what else do we have on my list? All right, the room. The room is has received a huge update, in my opinion. In my opinion, beside the dual NAM block, the best update so far. If you click on this over here, you are introduced with a new pop-up window where you have reverb, delay, and tremolo. Tremolo is a completely new addition. Reverb and delay, you already might know, although the delay has experienced some serious overhaul, which we're going to get into. A cool thing is, you can now use reverb and delay and tremolo. Before you had to decide whether you want to use reverb or you want to use delay. Now you can use all at once, and what's even cooler is through the parameters which we are provided with, we can set the delay to actually sound like a chorus, which is totally cool. I'm just now going to go ahead first and I want to set up a delay to my liking, you know, like a typical background lead delay. For that, I'm going to set some values over here so that they match my preferences. Feedback, do that like this, and then substantially dampen the repeats. And yeah, let's go with also a high pass so that it's not getting that much in the way of the original signal. This is what it's at. You gotta enable it so that you can hear it, of course. Already cool by itself, you know. What's even cooler is you can remember that when going to the delay and using this room knob, you are adjusting the mix of the room, as it says. But you can also now flexibly assign this to any other of these parameters. If I want to have the time of the delay, for example, set up to the room knob through a long press and waiting for that small signal to pop up right beside there, now I'm adjusting the time domain of the delay. How cool is that? Of course, you have no indicator in flashing or something, so you unfortunately don't have any visual indicator. You only have the acoustic indicator. But at some point, you kind of get the idea what kind of setting is where, and you can play a little bit around with that. I personally am a huge fan of this kind of, let's say, new gained flexibility. Let's go ahead and add a reverb to this. Yep, mix 19 is okay, and I like the medium. All right, sounds cool. Now that I have the reverb a little bit turned up, let's assign the mix back to this, and I'm gonna set up the mix a little bit louder. Now that I got a reverb set up, let's go to the delay and abuse it basically to resemble a chorus. That's really cool, and that really works well. I'm gonna show you the settings which I found out to be like very useful for this endeavor, and you can then tinker around on your own and find your own personal preference for this. Let me go ahead and LFO depth, let's move that to 23, and let's allow for more frequency to pass through, otherwise we're dampening this chorus effect too much. Again, if you want to hear something, you gotta enable it, of course, so let's do that. How cool is that? How cool is that you got now a chorus implemented? Really cool. Let's go for the tremolo and just let's play a little bit around with that. You know, nothing special about that. Through the depth, you are indicating how strong the volume fall is, or, you know, how strong the tremolo is. You cannot change the shape, unfortunately. So you cannot make a sine wave or square wave where you can have that super choppy stuff going on. That's not possible. It seems to me like either a triangle shape or a sine wave from, you know, the algorithm which is behind that. But, you know, I mean, hey, it's a tremolo for free. How cool is that? Really enjoying this update so far, and these features over here, I think, are really a key element to, you know, maybe replacing your or parts of your pedal board and making the NAMplayer pedal more of an all-in-one solution for all of your different applications. That's really cool. That's really cool. I'm highly impressed by that one. Okay, we got now dual NAM, LFO, tremolo, okay, stage mode, and the room. So, with that out of the way, let's check out some rather small quality of life improvements which we got over here. We got the LED color, which is changing as we are scrolling through. Before, you always had to select your choice, then it just changes the color. So there's that. Moving into the menu, we got the line out tap after functionality. So basically in the older firmware version, it was more or less, do you want your IR on line out? Yes or no? More you could not say. Now you can really grab your line out tap after a specific block in the DSP chain. Either after the boost, or after the EQ, or after the room, after the high pass, low pass within the IR section, or after the IR. So you have a ton of different possibilities in what you want to set up over here. This is super flexible, super nice. You got a line out master volume, which is and very useful if you're going into a power amplifier. You got your foot switch mode, which we had before, foot switch long press mode, which we just discussed. The tuner pitch reference, where you can set it up. And we got recall last preset, which is really cool. I really dig this feature. What this basically means is that depending on what you set over here as your last preset, that's going to be recalled again. Let's go with this over here. Let's turn off the device. I'm going to turn down the volume of the power amp. And I'm going to turn this back on. And we should see that it's going to go back to this preset over here. Ah, okay. Okay, for whatever reason, okay, why didn't this work? Let's try this out again. Let's try this out again. Recall last preset, yes. Okay. Let's go over here. Let's change something. Let's save that. You gotta wait 5 seconds or something so that it really saves the last preset. Okay, that should be enough. Let's turn this off. And put this back in. So let's see if it now recalls the last preset as intended. Yeah, okay, now it works. Okay, so perhaps I did a small mistake before. Maybe I didn't wait long enough. You have to wait like 5 seconds when you set up the setting and go to the preset in order for that preset to be recalled. Hey, Pip from the future here. I totally forgot to talk about one particular thing which has been added to the pedal, and that is DIMEHEAD has added a few new amplifier and overdrive or distortion profiles onto this unit. So coming from factory setup, you got more options in order to kind of shape your tone. And there's one profile which I really like, but in order to make a fair assessment, we got to first disable the boost effects NAM over here. And then go to the factory folder. Requires a little bit of scrolling, but nothing wild. And that is the Boogie Studio. So the Boogie Studio preamp, basically, which is very renowned for doing that Metallica thing. And Dirk actually made a very cool capture, which is the Boogie Studio Overdrive, which gets that sound pretty much right bang on. Okay, I'm just gonna load this up. This is a little bit loud. Let's turn the volume a little bit down for this, like somewhere around 8. And let's keep the equalizer on neutral settings. This is what it sounds like. That is already very convincing. Keep in mind that the humbucker in this guitar is pretty low gain, or low output, so it's not pushing the profile that hard. We could easily go ahead and add a little bit gain, but before we do that, I actually want to do something else because it's a little bit muffled in the low end. You could go ahead and now roll back the low end. And I want to also engage the pre-EQ and see how that works out. So for that, I first got to set this to none so that we have no NAM file engaged. Then I got to engage yes. What I want to do now is I want to crank the treble substantially. And I also want to crank the bass a little bit because I'm going to go ahead, take out the mids a little bit. I'm just now tinkering a little bit around. I have no idea how this is going to sound. Just going to take a little bit mids out and a little bit more low end. Let's try this out. Now you could go ahead, add a little bit more juice to it. So you get a little bit more gain. Let's go with 3.5. Really cool profiles in here. I really dig that. Okay, off to the next segment. Another interesting feature with this firmware is that we have a lot more MIDI capabilities. Now before we only had basically the possibility to change, I'm not sure the programs or the controls. I think it was the programs where you could set the presets. I basically have this over here already with the MIDI Baby disaster area devices where I can toggle between 2 presets. I don't need more for that personally. And yeah, now DIMEHEAD has brought up over here this MIDI mapping of your NAMplayer test, and it allows to basically see what kind of parameters you can change, what are the values behind that, how it would change, how it would behave, and so on and so forth. I'm not super into MIDI, so I cannot really comment on how useful this is over here, but I just want to pinpoint that this is now an option. I think this does a lot of cool stuff for you people out there who are, eager to learn about MIDI or, do MIDI with the NAMplayer. And yeah, that's a pretty cool thing in my book. It looks all very convincing, looks very similar to the setup of the MIDI Baby disaster area device, where you also use stuff with a web browser. And with that out of the way, let's get to the conclusion, although I'm pretty sure you know pretty much what I'm about to say. Yeah, of course. I'm a huge fan of this firmware update. I think it speaks absolutely volumes in DIMEHEAD's favors that they release this free of charge. So many additions to the software, which, the competition has been begged for a long time. Clear winner. I mean, if this did not push you over the edge to get a NAMplayer pedal, I'm not sure what else will actually, With that out of the way, I'm going to put a link down below in the description where you can purchase the NAMplayer. As said, again, of course, I'm doing this as a favor to DIMEHEAD, this video, but I'm not being sponsored by them. I'm not being paid or anything. Everything which you're seeing is my honest opinion, my honest take on what's going on. I've shown you also some of the caveats in using the firmware. So I hope that that transparency suffices for you to make an honest and informed judgment upon this being the right thing for you or not. with that out of the way, I hope you learned something out of this. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have done, I would absolutely appreciate if you could subscribe to the channel, like, comment what's your favorite feature, just engage a little bit in some talks. Always helps the channel out, and I have a lot of fun talking to you people out there. Yeah, with that out of the way, thank you so much everybody for watching the video. Thank you to the people at DIMEHEAD for providing the beta firmwares for me to check out and allowing me to release this over here and educate you people out there on this new firmware version. Hope to see you in the next video. Until then, keep it metal.